Alright boys, we got a trade recap today for Wednesday, July 16th. This was a trade that I took this morning on NQ within the first couple minutes of market open. And it was simply just targeting this data low right here. This isn't a trade that I normally do take though, because it was taken on a 30-second fair value gap. But the bias was pretty simple coming into today. So we had this data high right here. We had CPI come out, or PPI come out pre-market, and then going to the higher time frame charts though, this is what the hourly looked like right here. Boom. We were kind of just within this range, and I had a mixed bias. We have a big 4-hour fair value gap right here that we were within. I started, I told myself we could either come down, potentially target this low. I don't really want to target this low externally, just because if we go to the 4-hour, we did have an SMT right here with ES at this low. In addition to that, if we look at this 4-hour candle, it was like a big rejection from this area after coming down and filling this imbalance right here. So I didn't really want to be short to this low. And then looking at the 1-hour chart, we started to get bought back up here, and but also realizing that we had this big imbalance to the left of us, so we need to kind of see us inverse that before we can start to target this hourly high up here, and then potentially all-time highs up here. So the higher time frame bias was a little mixed, but like I said, I noticed we had that PPI news data come out before the market opened, and this was the data low, and this was the data high. So I was looking for, I thought there was potential for the data low to potentially get taken. And right when the market opened, we came up and wicked out the data high, and then had this big displacement candle on the 1-minute chart. If we can go back to it. So market opens right here on this candle. We come up, sweep the high, and then the next 1-minute candle, boom. Very, very strong displacement, volatile move down. Now the data low is right here. There's not a whole lot of room in between where price is right now and this data low. So I waited for a second to see if there would be a 1-minute imbalance that formed. And then this candle ended up coming up and closing off this area. So I'm like, okay, there's no way that a 1-minute imbalance is going to be formed. So I zoomed into the 30-second chart. And coming to the 30-second chart, I see that we've already respected this 30-second fair value gap, or tapped into it. And then we come up, take this high within it, and mid-candle here, we come up and we start to come back down and close. And on the way back down, I entered literally right here. I'm on the way back down. Waited for a little bit of a bearish reaction. I'm coming back up into the 30-second, and then boom. A couple candles later, we take the data low. So that was the trade taken on the 30-second chart. Like I said, not something that I normally do, but taking advantage of the market open volatility, and I had a strong drawn liquidity, which was the data low. Data low. Our high time frame draw, we have middle time frame displacement. We have displacement, and then I just zoomed in for an entry. We came back up, got bearish reactions, started to wick out this 30-second fair value gap and the high that was put in within it, and so I entered. So a little bit of an abnormal trade, like I said, but and then after this happened, if we just come to the 15-minute, there was potential to potentially target this low down here. Right here we started to get displacement lower, and then if we go to the 5-minute chart, I was originally looking for, potentially this 5 minute to hold. Like this would have been a pretty solid trade if we had just come down, tapped into it, and continued. But then we started to chop and chop and chop. If we go to the 1-minute chart, before even tapping into this bearish 5-minute, we have a ton of choppy 1-minute candles, and then once we finally come back up into it, we never inversed the last remaining bullish fair value gap within the range. and then we get bought back up, and at this point it's pretty evident that there's not a trade that's going to happen. And then this volatile move right here was just based off of news, Trump potentially going to fire Jerome Powell. That's a rumor, but that's what this was all about. So potentially looked to target this low right here. That would have been a nice potential trade, but that never ended up playing out. And then so took a win right here on this 30-second for value gap. Like I said, not something I would normally take, but had confidence in it. And then there was, you know, I had my drawn liquidity. There was displacement. We had a sweep on liquidity up here, and yeah, man, that's pretty much that. So that's the trade that I took today. Now zooming back out, we're still within this range, which sucks, but it is what it is. So still within this range here. So you can see on the 4-hour, we're kind of just chopping and chopping and chopping. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Would obviously like to inverse this, and then once we inverse this, we can start to target these highs up here. So that's what I'd be looking for going into tomorrow, but we're gonna have to wait and see how the market closes and what happens overnight. But trade recap. This was the winning trade that I took, really the only potential trade. In my eyes, that was a valid trade to take today, and just targeting this data low. So off the 30-second chart. So that's trade recap for today, Wednesday, July 16th. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Hopefully we get some good opportunity. And yeah, man, I appreciate you watching. I will see you on the next video. Peace.